Naples, June 26, 1914. A young man, Eugenio Marinella, rolls up the shutter of his new shop for the first time. He had just walked toward the small store along the seafront promenade, and his eyes were filled with the glaring light of dawn, but his heart was still heavy as he pondered the events that had shaken the city 2 weeks prior, when a group of anarchists had assaulted the train station not far from there in reaction to the police killing 3 workers. As he was embarking now upon his new entrepreneurial venture, he didn't know that 3 days after his grand opening, another shocking event would snarl his original plans, as the killing of Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand in Sarajevo on June 29th would lead Europe into the Great War, a conflict that seemed so distant at first, but that would eventually hit Naples directly 4 years later, when a German blimp bombed the city and its harbor on March 11, 1918. Despite these circumstances, which could have discouraged him or put an abrupt end to his newly formed business, his 20 square meter store survived the shock and slowly became an island of peace in the restless heart of the city, or rather, a window open to its broader horizon. What he brought inside the store every time he reached it from the lungomare was the marvel of that first dawn, the ever-new vision of Capri and Sorrento on the sea line, and the endless amazement of that fresh air seemingly anticipating a feast. Bell'aria fresca pare già una festa, in the words of Naples' most famous song, O Sole Mio. Similarly, what his enchanted customers would seek and find inside his store over the following decades was that same awe, that same vision, that same air, all condensed in the colors, beauty, and life of his ties. The Riviera di Chiaia was no random place for Marinella. His store, in Piazza della Vittoria, was located near the gardens of Villa Comunale, where the Neapolitan aristocrats used to trot with their horses. The piazza was linked to Via Caracciolo, a long seafront boulevard connecting the old quarters to Mergellina and the Parco Virgiliano, where a few years prior, the city had created a monument to the romantic poet Giacomo Leopardi, moving his tomb close to that of the Roman poet Virgil. Halfway there, on that road, you can also find the American consulate, which was built in 1796 as one of the oldest foreign outposts of the United States. Now, Via Caracciolo was a byproduct of Italy's unification and reflected the city's glory and contradictions. It was conceived as a new grand boulevard, ideally mirroring the city's transition from its old role as capital of the Kingdom of Two Sicilies to its new ambitions as Italian capital. In 1865, when the unified state was in search of a national capital different from Turin, Naples was chosen as a replacement, as the most populous city on the peninsula. But the king opted instead for Florence, mainly for reasons of military defense. After this decision, and after the conquest of Rome in 1870, followed by its definitive establishment as Italy's capital, Naples lost its post-unification momentum and underwent a slow economic crisis, which dramatically erupted in 1884, when an epidemic of cholera broke out in the city, and when the local journalist Matilde Serrao denounced the dramatic hygienic conditions of its ventre, belly. Soon after, as Via Caracciolo was being completed, the national government enacted a radical plan of risanamento, renovation of the city, which culminated in the demolition of historic neighborhoods, the so-called sventramento, and the building of the Galleria Umberto I, which was inaugurated by Italy's king in 1890. How many times walking the arcades of the Galleria, Marinella dreamed of his new shop? How many times walking from there to the nearby Teatro San Carlo, he heard singers perform, perhaps even Enrico Caruso, who would move from there to Milan and eventually bring his unforgettable voice to New York and the opera houses of the world. How many times walking from the Galleria to the bay, Marinella saw hordes of immigrants crowding the harbor, as in those years the city was becoming the most important hub for transatlantic travels. Walking between the old quarters and the new Galleria, Marinella saw firsthand the misery and nobility of his city, its overlap of misfortune and opportunity, scarcity and wealth, or, in the title of an 1887 play by Edoardo Scarpetta, its miseria e nobiltà. He would see it again in the early 20th century when the dramatic eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 1906 was contemporary with a period of economic growth for the city, as symbolized by the Mannaiuolo Palace in the nearby Via Filangieri, a building designed in the New Liberty style by architect Giulio Ulisse Arata and featuring one of Italy's most beautiful spiral staircases. When Marinella opened his store not far from it, his small locale was a microcosm of its surroundings and the city itself, its narrow alleys and broad streets, its deep heritage and its aspirations for modernity, its groundedness in centuries-long tradition, and its openness to the world. From its strategic position, the shop aspired to capture the imagination of Neapolitan aristocrats living in the area and project their ideals into the future, creating a new modern identity for the city as a fusion of tradition and trendiness, rootedness and worldliness. On the one hand, he conceived of the store as a place to chat, discuss, and understand clients. As his personalized approach to customers allowed him to quickly understand the evolution of society and customs, the store also became a living laboratory of top-notch artisanship, refined tailoring, and new styles. On the other hand, as Marinella traveled to Manchester to acquire the most exclusive British fabrics and to London to import iconic products of the time, Bricks umbrellas, J&W Dawson shoes, and Lock & Co hats, his store also represented an ideal harbor to the world, or in the words of Matilde Serao, a little corner of England in Naples. Thanks to its rooted sophistication and open creative imagination, the store survived the dramatic events that shook the city, from World War I to fascism, from the bombings of 1943 to the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 1944, from post-war reconstruction to the economic boom. While initially focusing on button-down shirts, the shop soon shifted its focus to neckties, as confirmed by Marinella's decision to dispatch top-level artisans to Paris to learn the art of cutting. From Parisian tailors, his artisans imported a new technique for styling ties from a 7-folded square, guaranteeing them sturdiness without compromising softness, consistency without hampering opulence, and solid positioning without preventing naturalness. As a new bourgeoisie replaced the ancient nobility and American products brought new fashion trends, handmade neckties became a distinctive element for Marinella in the post-war years, and a trademark of inimitable craft. As Gianni Agnelli or President Kennedy wore them during their visit to the Amalfi Coast in the summer of 1962, the cosmopolitan elegance, temperate luxury, and colorful patterns of Marinella ties gave form not just to the store's mystique, but also to a new Italian elegance, or Dolce Vita style. The store passed from the founder, Eugenio, to his son Luigi, and then to his grandson Maurizio and his great-grandson Alessandro, having now reached its 4th generation in business. And new branches have opened in Milan, Rome, Turin, and Tokyo. Marinella's ties have been worn by the world's leading politicians and celebrities, and the MoMA even included them as emblems of Italian refinement in the 2017 exhibit Items, Is Fashion Modern? In recent years, Marinella has also enriched its style with new foulard lines for women, the creation of new accessories, and the establishment of the new capsule collection, which combined tie making with a commitment to sustainability, in partnership with the Sicilian manufacturer Orange Fiber. From its early days to the present, Marinella's success ultimately lies in a particular craft and aesthetics of its trademark product, the tie. But what makes Marinella ties so special, you may ask? Or perhaps, what does a Marinella tie say? To explore these questions, I will first examine the historical meaning of ties and then outline the added value of Made in Naples. Well, the necktie is a well-known fashion accessory, elevating one's look or completing formal attire. Its origin is nonetheless related to war, as ties represented functional and decorative items in military uniforms. Roman soldiers wore pieces of cloth around the neck, as seen in the sculptures on Trajan's Column in Rome, which celebrates the emperor's conquest of Dacia in the 2nd century AD. Most scholars, however, relate the origins of neckties to the 30 Years' War, which shook Europe in the first half of the 17th century, and relate their diffusion to the French fascination with the uniform of mercenary soldiers from Croatia, featuring long cloaks, fur hats, and silk scarves tied around their neck. The French identified the Croats by their neck foulard, as the Croatian word for Croat, ravati, or its Serbian equivalent ravat, became the French word cravat, which referred to their neckerchief. King Louis XIV loved the cravat and made it an indispensable fashion accessory, which would then be imitated all over Europe. Throughout the 18th century, the cravat, or in Italian cravatta, became not just a defining accessory of masculine elegance, but also a powerful symbol of dignity, decorum, and respect. As neckties turned into tools of self-expression in the 19th century, each of their components gradually acquired a specific set of meanings. Silk, their labor-intensive fabric, designated sophistication and refinement. Folds, stitches, and cut implied thoughtful composition and mastery of detail. The knot suggested a measured coincidence of intricacy and intrigue by showing yet hiding, revealing complexity yet maintaining a secret aura. Knot styles depicted classiness and status. The four-in-hand came from the name of a 19th century London club. The Windsor was made popular by Edward of Windsor in the 1930s. The half Windsor reduced the Windsor from 8 to 6 steps, and the 9-step Balthus knot was ideated by the Surrealist painter. Patterns showed allegiances. The regimental appeared in England to exhibit school pride, and later displayed good tidings, holiday mood, or just conversation starters. Lastly, color displayed different meanings. Red implied passion or importance. Blue, reliability and trustworthiness. Orange, vitality and energy. Green, growth and renewal. Purple, romance and royalty. Pink, creativity and strength. And yellow, happiness and radiance. Until the end of the 19th century, the formal color for ties was white. The breaking of this visual code came in 1886, when tobacco tycoon Pierre Lorillard IV wore a black tie to a party at his family estate in Tuxedo Park, New York. His black tie was an immediate hit, and his tuxedo attire, well, you can guess what other trend it started. From its military and aristocratic origins to its association with a modern man's suit, the tie represents a highly coded self-fashioning tool, evoking rank, elevation, or distinction. Even more, a tailor-made or custom-designed tie indicates uniqueness, character, and exclusiveness. In this context, then, and here is my second point, what does Naples add to the meaning of this object? What makes a cravatta Marinella so unique? The secret je ne sais quoi of Marinella consists in the invisible yet unmistakable connection of the brand and the product to the life of Naples, or rather to its environment, giving it authenticity, to its culture, giving it charm, and to its aria, the Italian word for air, atmosphere, but also for look, giving it a particular aura of inimitable elegance. We can sum up the qualities of Made in Naples in one word: warmth. The warmth of artisan hands, endowing the object with intentionality and projecting a distinctive lifestyle into a non-homologated way of doing. The warmth of a unique location, the Riviera di Chiaia, open wide toward the sunlight, the radiance of the sea, and the furthest horizon. The warmth of a personal care for clients who once visited the store to learn new styles and build their aristocrat look, and still today cross its threshold to feel guided, pampered, and recognized. And the warmth of Naples itself, as a cultural soil nurturing storytellers, poets, and playwrights, from the Latin poet Virgil, who owned the house in Neapolis, to the medieval novella master Boccaccio, who grew up in Naples, from the Baroque writer Giambattista Basile, whose Cunto degli Conti created the genre of fairy tales, to the romantic poet Giacomo Leopardi, who spent the last years of his life in the city, from the playwright Edoardo Scarpetta to the comic actor Totò. Against the backdrop of Naples, a tie is not just a warm strip of silk, but rather a talking or acting object. In the same way as pulcinellas or papier-mâché statues in the city quarters or nativity sets in the famous Via dei Presepi in San Gregorio Armeno, it is this life which gives a tie its vital air, turning colors into elements of endless variation, knots into theatrical performances, and portability into a form of elegance and recognition. From its foundation to the present, Marinella's mission remains the same. Its handmade pieces of unrepeatable design and its store are expressions of the city's warmth, of its sociability, radiance, and stories, of its bell'aria fresca. Marinella's language of livelihood, irony, and depth is the quintessence of Made in Naples. Its approach to elegance can be defined accordingly in relation to three key traits: authenticity, the representation of normality without indulging in vanity; wholeness, a coherent atmosphere making the obvious exceptional and the hidden visible; and empowerment, the tailoring of formality beyond rigidity and of respectability through irreplicable forms. The Marinella style reflects the essence of Naples, which similarly begs us to look twice, as in the meaning of the word respect. As a tie hides meanings in its components and makes manifest a wholesome sense of life as warmth, beauty, and the flaws that make us human, so does the city itself, which displays its life without affectation and constantly hides and reveals an unpredictable charm, as we see in the church of Santa Chiara, destroyed by bombs, yet still treasuring its precious cloister in decorated maiolica. In the subway stop of Toledo, hiding underground, one of the most remarkable architectural projects of our time, or in the development of an Apple Academy near the harbor where millions of emigrants left. What Winston Churchill, John F. Kennedy, Elton John, Silvio Berlusconi, Bill Clinton, and Emmanuel Macron sought while walking to the Marinella store on the Riviera di Chiaia was the same thing that Italian King Umberto II and the European aristocrats were in search of in the early 20th century. Not just the finest expression of Neapolitan craftsmanship, but also, and most importantly, the character, warmth, and life of a magical city, all condensed in a thin silk strip. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this presentation, I invite you to subscribe to this YouTube channel or to the webpage www.italianinnovators.com to receive notifications of new episodes. You can also follow me on my LinkedIn profile or on Instagram at Italian Innovators for additional materials about the show. Thanks again. Arrivederci e alla prossima.